Hello there, and welcome back to the Reach Your Dew Point podcast. If you're subscribed to the podcast, you know what's coming. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, why? And as usual, we have a great guest today, Justin Robbins. I've known Justin let's not count back the years, shall we? But I do very distinctly remember the first time we met, which was where? Do you remember? First time we met in person was in...
my guess would have been Orlando or Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs is the correct answer. Ding, ding.
Yeah.
When I popped into the office of HDI, ICMI, or the connector that goes into your computer, HDMI. We can just call it that. And you were like, whoa, what are you doing here?
Day now. I remember this day.
Yeah, it was fun. Unexpected and fun. Now, Justin, if you don't know him, is an important presence in the field of especially customer experience. Other things too, but customer experience is where Justin's happy place is. And he has a new book out, which we'll be discussing. And he asks a question on his LinkedIn profile. As you know, I usually select some snippets. And he asked this question. He says, what happens when the most human moments in your business become your competitive edge? That's a great question. I love it. The most human moments become your competitive edge. And he has written this book, which is called More Than a Motto. I've always thought that it's important to document how you think you should be doing something, but the most important part is how you do something. And Justin expresses that really well in the book. He says, values only matter when they show up in really how work really gets done. So having the values is great, but if you're not doing it, what you said, right? Not walking the talk, as we say. So tell me about what instigated you to write the book. Writing a book is a big deal.
Yeah.
And at some point you made the decision, you reached that dew point to say, I'm going to write this book. So tell me about that.
Yeah, Roy. It's good to catch up with you, by the way. One of the memories I think fondly of is when we realized that the Jefferson Memorial was etched in the air vents of one of the meeting rooms that we were in. That's a memory that I laugh back on when I see that. It's interesting. You asked the question of what instigated this, and the honest answer is it was something that just became impossible for me to ignore. It didn't matter where I went. If I wanted to escape it, it somehow found its way to be front and center in what I noticed as a leader, as a consultant, as a researcher. And the thing that became unignorable for me, Roy, was this idea that work seemed to be working against most people that I knew. I've certainly felt that at points in my career. And the more I tried to name this problem that I was seeing and hearing people articulate, it was that idea of work working against itself. So that was the catalyst, and we can talk more about what I learned through, getting really curious about the topic. But that was kind of it. I just felt in my gut, I could finally name the thing that I'd been observing and chasing after, and it was that idea of why do people feel like work works against them, and if we can recognize it, what's stopping us from doing something about it?
So part of that is the question that occurs to almost every employee I've ever run across, which is, why is this so hard? Right? Why is it so hard? And that goes to something that I talk about a lot and think about a lot, which is the friction of work. Digital friction, if you want to call it, that's part of it. Just friction in general inside the organization, friction with the technology, friction with systems, friction with everything. And As we know, friction tends to drag things and make them more drawn out and harder to do. So you obviously have thought a lot about that, and you've thought about a solution for that, which is what the book is really about, approaching things in a different way. And you've got a framework uh, that helps people deal with it. So let's just dive in and talk about that. Let's talk about rhythm as not an algo. Algorithm is one thing, and it's you can sing that too. Algorithm, algorithm. Hey, it's my podcast.
I like this, Roy. I'm here. I'm here for it. I'm all day, every day. So we can talk about why did I go with rhythm, and what does rhythm mean? Let's start to the comment you made about people saying that why does it have to be so hard? What was interesting for me as I started interviewing and really digging into research, the thing that was the issue for most employees wasn't that work was hard. I think using that as a statement and describing what we were experiencing was easy because maybe we didn't always have words for it. But what I found is often it became, why does work have to be so contradicting? Or why does my work feel so invisible? Or why does it seem like I'm the only one who cares about the things that we say are most important? Those were the types of things that started to show up, that the feeling of hard, I think, Roy, really comes from a place of, I know there's a better way. And why does it seem like we're not pursuing that better way? So I'm gonna start by couching in that. And what I tried to understand was what was causing that feeling and that friction, as you said, to play out in organizations. Very quickly affirmed that it wasn't intentional. And in fact, in many cases, it was able to be named, but still people weren't doing about it. People weren't doing anything about it. So I was like, okay, we have to figure this out. And rhythm really came down to, as I looked at the organizations that struggled and the ones who do this well. And what I mean by do this well, I talk about connecting purpose to practice. That's what I really mean here. The organizations that connect purpose to practice really well exhibit 6 habits. And rhythm really represents those 6 habits that, when practiced, better connect what we say to what we do. And even to your bit you made in the intro, the reflex and the muscle memory that we have as we go about our day to day. That to me is probably the biggest bit to all of this. Is the reasons our values don't manifest is because we haven't put them into practice enough for them to just be habit and to be reflex. So that to me is what rhythm is about, is what are the things that, if done, enable us to build muscle memory so we don't have to wonder what our values are, what matters most to the organization in this moment. It's just how we act.
And I can remember that too. That's a great way to put it, by the way. And I can remember all the way back to one of the first jobs I have ever had, which was working in what at the time was the highest volume grocery store, supermarket in the United States. Amazingly busy place. And the owner, and he was the owner of the store, young guy. His dad had brought him up in the grocery business and basically let him run this store, gave him the store when he was 21. And when I first met Tommy, he was probably 23, 24 years old. He was an amazing guy. But we learned from Tommy, watching him and listening to him and hearing the way that he talked about customers and the way he did things. We learned that our values were absolutely part of our work and became reflexes. We just did things. So I was very lucky to have that exposure early on. But boy, put your finger right on it. It's, if you make that stuff a habit, it's amazing what happens with the work.
Yeah.
And the people who weren't able to do it wound up leaving through attrition. They didn't fit. They didn't want to be around. They didn't get it, or they did something really bad and got canned. But that was unusual.
Yes, and I think the thing that maybe shocked me is the I'll go with shocked. The thing that shocked me as I was looking at organizations is how much of the way the day-to-day operates is unintentional reflex.
Mm-hmm.
That was maybe one of the most surprising bits of they'd never been thoughtful about how we act in different moments. And so really what's the result of today is not designed, or nobody architect was an architect of making this kind of play out. It's just a bunch of people reacting, and that's not the place that is going to get an organization to be successful, but for people to be consistent and aligned.
Unless those responses to what's going on around them are in the proper direction with the intended results. And that's really where that framework goes. So tell us what rhythm stands for.
Yeah. So the first bit, R, is resolve what matters, and it really begins with clarity. If I went back to what was the moment where it all started to break down for organizations, it's people assuming that their intentions were understood when they communicated something. They assumed that, hey, we told it once and it was going to persist with people. Right? There's all of these things that erode clarity. And, as I would sit with people and I'd ask them to name what matters most or what has to win in the day, a lot of people couldn't do that. So for me, the first habit was really having a posture of understanding what it means to actually provide and align on what matters most, and being clear. Second, H stands for hold the line. And what this really means is about the intentional pre-decisions we make when pressure applies to our organization. So much of when we do focus on designing work, a lot of that happens in a very clean, ideal conditions of we're able to sit down and be thoughtful about it. And the minute it has any type of stress put on it, and that could be the stress of growth and positive things happening, it could be the stress of we've got to tighten resources, the organization hasn't made decisions on what happens when priorities collide. And so you see contradiction starts to play out inside of these organizations. So hold the line, again, is really about what are the intentional pre-decisions that you're going to make. We can't do that about everything, but there are certainly, meaningful parts of how we have people make decisions in different moments that we could be more articulate about, and say, hey, when it comes to this moment, here's how we think through what really has to win. Again, goes back to some of that muscle memory. Third bit, so why is you belong here? This is really about connection, and this there's lots of things that are driving this right now, and whether it's about what will my job look like in a week or in a year from now, it might be feeling like I'm investing so much in ensuring that we're successful, and nobody cares as much as I do. So why am I sticking around if I care so much? There's a lot that can erode someone's feeling of belonging, but the biggest bit from the research was the reason why people disengage and check out isn't because they feel like the job is difficult. They feel like what they are doing and what they care about is either invisible or not aligned to what the organization says is really the ethos of what they stand for. So that's the bit there. The next bit is T for tempo the work. And this is really at the root of what is the pace that we run. And organizations believe that rest and recovery is something that needs to happen at the weekend or in the evening, but the reality is that it's like that's not the case, and there's not a thoughtful approach to how we restore energy inside of the work. We leave people to do that on their own time. So the fourth habit really was the the cadence and how we think about understanding how we ebb and flow inside of the workday. And again, we could probably, and I have certainly had very long conversations with that bit alone. Not to tangent too hard, Roy, but I think especially with how technology is evolving right now, people feel like the tempo is only going up and they aren't feeling any sense of pause or rest. It's just more everywhere. So that's the T, tempo of the work. H stands for hear the system. Organizations are really, really good at measuring what work produces, but not what work actually feels like. So this is really, taking a look at what are the metrics that we use to understand what's happening inside of our environment, not just what it's producing. And the last bit, M, is about make it repeat. And it's about that predictable pattern. It's about consistency. Not just say what you'll do, but do what you say, not once, not in big moments, but every single day. And honestly, Roy, can apply to kind of any of those. It's like, and what I encourage in the book and what I'm working with leaders is it's really about, hey, can you commit to one thing? And even for 30 days, just show that you're going to make it repeat. But that's it. That's kind of when it all comes together. Rhythm is about those habits, but it's also about the rhythm of work. That to me was the biggest part here is when we think about how work works, there's already a natural rhythm, a pulse, a movement to how things happen. And changing that isn't about blowing it up and writing a new song, but it is about being really intentional about how we rewire and shift it. I mean, you're a musician as well. There are opportunities while you're inside of a piece to make subtle changes that as long as you commit to it, by the end, you can have something very, very different. And you don't have to stop and start, right? But you have to be smart and intentional about how you make the transition.
That you absolutely do have, and that's it does relate to the work in the sense that I'm an individual within an organization. I'm the one that's choosing to say what I'm about to say to the customer who's on the other end of the phone or the video or whatever it happens to be. I'm the one who's responsible in the eyes of my organization anyway for delivering this product or service. And so the choices I make along the way do have influence on the final outcome, right? And I think that that's certainly part of it. And if I understand what the organization expects, then I can do a better job of that.
Yeah.
Make sense?
It does. And that's already happening, right? We're already making those decisions. We're already doing things that are morphing it. It's just about, honestly, Roy, it's about intentionality and discipline. If I were to really boil down what was the key bit I'm getting at here is how do we be more intentional and then more disciplined in how and what we're doing when it comes to the way work works.
Okay, now I'm going to get all newscastery on you. And I'm going to say, so your company, why metric, why Sherpa?
Oh, the name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a great name. I just interested in how you made that choice.
Yeah. Which, by the way, this is like, if you've ever had to name anything, a pet, a child, a company, you go through a spiral and then you eventually make a decision and, then it's there, at least, for a period of time. So if I think about the common thread of my career up into starting the company, one of the things that I was always most passionate about and always thinking about was how we define and deliver success. And there's no better way to do that than by understanding what success looks like, what are the things that we can do that will be predictive in achieving that, and what enable us to reflect back on, what we did and where we might go next. So metrics were always a core part of just where I found myself spending time. Writing, speaking, didn't matter. Like that idea of how do we how do we define and understand what we're moving towards and what we're accomplishing, I think is really, really important. So that was part one for me of, hey, we've got to be really clear, even to the book, in terms of what matters most. We've got to be able to define what success looks like, how we'll know it when we see it. So that was a big part of metric, was being able to align around that. Sherpa part didn't come so naturally. So I, oh my gosh, this is a couple of years ago. My son, who is now 14, he was probably 10 at this point. Yeah, because I founded the company in 21. So yeah, he was 9 or 10. And he had gotten done with a soccer match. And he came back to me and he had a really good game. And I was like, his name's Carter. I was like, dude, you did such a great job, buddy. And he's like, yeah, I'm just built different. And it's like, okay, that's a thing. And I was, because like having teens, they say stuff. And so I start like going down rabbit trails of like, what does this actually mean? Is this innocent? Is there some nefarious back to, this? So I start I'm researching built different. And that took me down this rabbit trail of research around the Sherpa people. And not to give us a crazy history lesson here, but essentially you've got a group of people who migrated from one location to incredibly high altitudes. And there have been all of these interesting studies over the years about how can this group of people survive in incredibly harsh conditions, even to the point to believe that they have evolved over time to thrive in situations where others cannot, thrive in conditions that, the average person just isn't able to endure. And so there was something that stood out to me in terms of what happens when we immerse ourselves in a circumstance and when we are willing to go through something, not around it. The refining that builds in us, the perspective that it provides on the other side of it. And I thought that study on the Sherpa people and kind of what the conditions they've exposed themselves to, what that has enabled them to thrive in, I thought was incredibly fascinating. So then when I tried to pair this idea of not only how do we define and understand what we're moving towards in terms to success, but what happens when we're able to immerse ourselves and kind of endure really, really tough circumstances to then have a perspective that is differentiated and valuable and formed through having actually gone through something, not just observed it, I thought was really, really meaningful. So roundabout way to get to what mattered to me as a business was how do we get really intentional about enabling organizations to define what matters most and what it looks like to be successful. And then how do we make sure that we bring perspective that is from lived experience, not just observation, in terms of who we're aligning with and how we're enabling their success.
Great. That's a terrific explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think it's personally, I think it's a great name. And also it conveys the impression that Sherpas are known for helping, for carrying, for assisting climbers, especially on Everest and the adjoining mountains. But also tells me that your company is there to help us get the heavy lifting done to get to where we want to go, which is, of course, the summit. So I think it works tremendously. Was that part of your intention too, or did I just make that up?
So quite honestly, this was probably my biggest point of tension with selecting the name, because it actually is, it's an entire group of people, right? It's not just the guides that I think we attribute with to mountaineering and whatnot. So it's certainly something that I think is a great association, especially for people who are from the States and maybe not as familiar with kind of culturally the people of Nepal and India who are Sherpa. But yeah, I certainly don't mind us being associated with being guides, but I also want to be really clear and intentional about. I mean, this is an incredible group of people who I think that's really what I wanted to make sure I was honoring through all of this.
And just to that point, in the European tradition, we all know, or most of us know, who Edmund Hillary was, but not everybody knows Tenzing Norgay.
Yeah.
There you go. So, a great tradition. So, what's next for you? Aside from multiple travels and zooming around all over the planet and helping other organizations understand what they need to be doing.
Yeah. I would say the next chapter, Roy, has maybe three big moments that are kind of a part of it. One is we realized through writing the book and speaking to a lot of organizations that it really was not just striking a chord, but was helping people have meaningful conversations and naming something that they've been working through. So there has been, a series of workshops and some other resources that we've put together to really go after this idea of aligning promise to practice and ensuring that work isn't working against any of us. So that's one of the big things that's next in terms of, what we've been doing on building and bringing those workshops to bear. I'm very excited. We are on the cusp of launching a new site that is specifically focused on my talks and what I bring to organizations on that front, which, you and I have known each other a really long time. I've been speaking a very long time, but have never formally kind of packaged and presented what I do in that realm. So that's one of the exciting things about what's next. And, maybe the last bit on the metric Sherpa side of things is, at our core, I think of Metric Sherpa as an insight lab. And what I mean in that is we do a fair bit of original research there, but we also are trying to question and experiment with what does it take to not just be relevant and helpful, but to have true resonance to the people that we're looking to serve. I think there's a lot out there right now that is easy to ignore. There's a lot that sounds the same, and there's a lot that's just hard to say, gosh, I think that's the thing that's going to help me. It's like, no, it's a lot of it just feels like noise. So we're doing, I won't say too much right now, but I'd say we're doing a lot on that front in terms of not just how do we continue to push what we're doing from a research standpoint, but also how we bring that to bear in the world and how we create resources and equip anybody. It doesn't matter if you're building a solution to serve someone in customer employee experience. Doesn't matter if you're a customer employee experience leader or even a consultant or an advisor to those people. How do we bring to bear resources that are not just very helpful, but are also just fun and intriguing and interesting to participate in?
Wait, fun? What would that be? Who says the guy who always tries to include a little bit of fun in everything, and why not? Justin, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. Good to see you. Good job on the book. And for those of you who don't necessarily read a lot of books, this one is very easily consumed. It is unique in structure, and that goes down to sentence structure. It's very easy to read. It's basically a lot of bullet points. I mean, you can really digest this very quickly. And so get the book, read the book, pay attention to what Justin's doing. Links are in the descriptions, of course. And Justin, I hope to see you sooner than it's been now. We have to do this
It's
a
been
little
a
more
minute,
often.
Roy. Yeah, no, I'm so glad we got together. I appreciate you and have always enjoyed our conversations. We will fix the having not been together in person though. This is I want to commit to before this year is done. Let's make that happen.
Okay, great to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you, Roy.